briefly what is Iranian foreign policy all about. She focused on the internal relations, but perhaps it would be useful to look at the brief history of Iranian foreign policy just recently, since the revolution. I would say that the best approach is what we used as Sovietologists when studying what the Russians wanted. Some of you who have done political science remember the old article 1947 by George Kennan on the dynamics of Russian foreign policy. I would use the same approach, and I would say there are two dimensions to it. One is the historical Iranian foreign policy that has been inherited from the times of the Shah, which called for a control of the region and control of the resources of the Gulf. This certainly came to be into a full blast, literally, in 1971 when the British left the Gulf. As it was at the time, demand for oil increased in the West. The use of super tankers to avoid the Suez Canal became even more prevalent, and the demand for oil was, of course, increasing. By the way, this is a time when the U.S. started importing more oil, and that started changing the balance of energy in the world. The second element, and let me add, by the way, Iranian foreign policy at the time of the Shah was concerned on the possibility of a two-front war, i.e. a war with two Arab countries, and keeping the Soviets out. So the alliance with Iran, with the United States, was very useful. In fact, Iran was involved in literally subverting at one time Iraq, because the Iraqis were subverting the Arabs on Iranian territory. There was a quid pro quo whereby the United States, the Shah decided to give up support of the Kurds, and Saddam Hussein gave up support on the Arabs in Khuzestan. Interesting enough, when Saddam Hussein was asked why on earth did you agree first the Algiers Agreement, which brought peace, quote unquote, between Iran and Iraq. Remember, there had been a war with Iranian divisions fighting in Iraq since 1968. He said, well, the Shah was too strong, there was nothing I could do about it. And now that there was a revolution, he decided to attack Iran for it, and I'm not going to go into all the details of what motivated him at the time. So that dimension of Iranian foreign policy has always been part of what the clerics have been doing. What the clerics added to it was, one, the Shiite dimension. If you compare the Soviet Union it is as if the Tsar, or well, Lenin was the new Tsar, and added the communist Marxist dimension. The clerics found very useful after the war with Iraq to engage in basically subverting and controlling Shiite movements and literally Shiite ethnic groups in the area. Hezbollah goes without saying, but if you've been following the press in detail, I just saw some time ago, just a few days ago, a Yemeni spokesman accusing Iran of subverting the Shiites in Yemen. Iran has also been involved in various shenanigans in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Interesting enough that we stay out of the Caucasus, though sometime it was Azerbaijan did accuse Iran of being involved in subversion in those areas of the Caucasus. The Shiite dimension is interesting because in many ways really buttresses Iranian security policy in the area. And it's not very costly, by the way. Paying $50 or $100 a day in a week or whatever a month to various members of organizations in Lebanon, and actually also there is some evidence for that in the Gaza Strip, goes a long way. Now, there is a dimension to the Shiite policies that is often forgotten. If you go back to the writings of one Ayatollah Khomeini and many other Shiite clerics, the opposition to Zionism, the state of Israel, and Jews as a whole is marked. It's there, and people have forgotten or have not wanted to look at it. The day Khomeini came to power, he made that very clear. He had done it in his writings. I may add, by the way, that when Ahmadinejad became president during his first term, one of the first speeches he gave was how he was going to get rid of all minorities in Iraq. And by the way, minorities, I don't mean only Christians, Baha'is, or Jews. Obviously, he had also the Sunnis in mind. Basically, they want a country that's Shiite, that's Persian-speaking, and is going to have a lot of clout. Now, let me add something more specific. What do they want in specific terms? And certainly, building a bomb or threatening their neighbors with it is very helpful. They want, first of all, and this goes back to more Iranian, the Persian royalty mentioned, they want to establish as a great power. These leaders today were socialized, and includes Ahmadinejad, under the old regime, where there was always stress on nationalism and how Iran was a great civilization. They consider themselves a Shiite great power. Do not forget that Pakistan considered a Sunni state. They want deterrence against real and imaginary enemies, I may add mostly imaginary. Again, an analogy to the Soviet Union and Russia found. They have very immediate regional concerns, and this year I would like to add some comments. Iran lives off its oil exports. The revenues have allowed the mullahs to engage in a populist economic program of subsidies that benefit ostensibly the lower orders. For example, subsidized cement for construction, bread, land, chicken, and other commodities. More often than not, the importation for production of such commodities is in the hands of the clerics, the Revolutionary Guards, or their families. Basically, Iran is still what we call in political sociology a new patrimonial system. You see all its cousins, uncles, nephews, and whatever else that couldn't have key positions in the system. Higher oil revenues and the higher and higher price per barrel in the international energy market benefit Iran enormously. Tehran historically, whether under the Shah or the mullahs, have aimed for greater quotas for Iran and higher prices for barrel, as opposed to the Saudi and other quote moderates in OPEC. The history of Arab-Iranian conflict over oil prices goes back to the 50s. And it has to do with how the Arabs undermined the Iranian efforts to increase the price of oil, even under the Shah in the 50s. Very simply, my thesis is that Iranian hegemony in the Gulf, aided and abetted by a nuclear component to keep out Western powers and regional competitors, would allow Iran to force other oil and gas producers, Emirates, Iraqis, and Qataris, to acquiesce to Iranian dictates about energy policy. The end result will be higher revenue for Iran and greater economic stability for the regime, thus ensuring clerical control, guard control over the system. The implacable opposition to Israel fuels Iranian status and prestige, not only among the Shiite masses, but also in the Islamic world, thus delegitimizing a regime that will be more open to compromise with the state of Israel. Iranian support for Hamas is an example of it. The regime is not, I do agree with Jennifer, the regime in Tehran is not as weak as it seems to be. They have very solid control, not only on the opposition in Iran, I may add, this is from my personal note, they have an excellent control of the opposition abroad. It's always interesting to see how Iranian academics abroad, those in exile, receive very, very elaborate artistic invitations to embassy parties. I received a few of them, and I was wondering how they managed to track me down. But I know Elliot thinks that we should push, but the regime is much stronger than it seems. They have been in power for 30 years. There is a new generation of people that have been re-socialized, young people. It's true that there is opposition amongst many, a lot of strength, but there are also people of stake in the regime and are not ready to give it up.
Thank you very much.